The word loft comes from wooden ship building, and in 3D graphics it basically means take two or more curves and connect them together to make a surface. And in 3ds Max the way it works is you have a path curve and one or more profile curves. So it's kind of like an extrude, except it's extrusion with a lot more bells and whistles to it. Instead of just extruding one curve, you can combine multiple curves. So the first curve that we need for our extrude is in fact the same one that we built for the seat base. So I can select that object and once again go back into its sub-object spline mode and make sure that's selected, and I can detach it once again and make a copy. So I'm scrolling down, copy is enabled, and I just click detach, and 3ds Max asks me what the new object is going to be called. So I'm going to call this cushion loft base, and click OK. I can exit out of sub-object mode, go back up to the top of the stack so I'll still see my extrude, and I want to select that new curve that's just been detached. So you might need to click a couple of times until you select it, but there you go. Cushion loft base is now selected, and again you can use the H key if you get in trouble, and that will allow you to select by name. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way, and it doesn't even matter where it is. In fact, I could place this wherever I want in my scene, and it will not make any difference from the point of view of the loft. So it's just convenient for me to place it over here on the side. Maybe I'll put it at a nice round number here. -40 inches in X. Okay. The next thing I need is I need a circle to use as the top of my cushion. So it's going to be nice and soft and round at the top. So let me go over here in my top view and I'll create a circle just centered right here on this object. And I'll use my snaps. Right click to make sure that I'm going to snap just to grid points in this case. Again, it doesn't matter exactly where I create these loft curves for the profiles. It's just more convenient for me to put them in the same place. So I'm going to create my circle, dragging out from the center there, and right click to finish. Then finally I also need a path curve, and this one I'm actually going to create in the front view, and I'm going to create it right here basically in C2 in position, because the loft tool kind of wants you to do it that way. You don't have to do it that way, but it just kind of makes things easier. So whereas the profile curves I can put basically anywhere, the path curve that I'm going to create now, it makes sense to put it in the position of the actual surface where it's going to go. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to click on line. I'm still snapping to the grid, and I'm just going to create 2 points on this line. Very, very simple. Let me dolly in a little bit closer. So I'm going to create 1 point here. Just click. Do not hold down the mouse. Okay, we're making just a single segment here. If you hold down the mouse, you'll make a curved segment. We want a linear segment. So I'm going to go up, 2 inches maybe. Click again, and now I've created the line. And when I finish creating, I'll right-click to exit that line, and I'll right-click again to exit the tool completely. Then I can turn off snaps, go over to the Modify panel, and I can select by vertex. I've got my line, which is the same thing as an editable spline. Just going to move that down a little bit because the cushion's not quite 2 inches tall. It's more like about 1.5 inches. Excellent. So now I've got the 3 things I need. I've got the line, which is the path curve, and I've got these 2 profile curves over here. Cool. The way this works for the Loft Compound Object is you want to select the path curve first. Okay, I've got that path curve activated. And I'm going to go back to my Create panel and back to Geometry. And this time, in the pull-down list, I'm going to choose Compound Objects. So as the name implies, a compound object is an object made out of 2 or more other objects. So I'll go ahead and go into that category. Now you'll see that some of these are going to be grayed out, and it depends upon what you currently have selected. If I have nothing selected, then most of them are going to be grayed out. But if I select my curve once again, you'll see a bunch of these basically giving me access now. Okay, so I'm going to click on the Loft button and that'll highlight it. Now I've got my Loft creation method and parameters. Now this is a little bit tricky, but if you follow the instructions exactly, you should get really good results with this. I'm going to get shape now. I've got the path, that's the path curve, but I need to get the profile curves, and those are the shape curves. So I'm going to go down here where it says Get Shape, click that button, and now I'm going to go over here and click on the profile curve that I made first. So that's the base curve. Okay, so I'll click on that. Now you'll see in the perspective view that I've got something. It's not really a cushion yet, but it's something. Okay, and it's turned around the wrong way, but we can fix that. Before we do that, let's finish the creation job, okay? So I'm still in Get Shape mode. And what I want to do now is, if you look really closely, you'll see, especially in one of the ortho views, you'll see a little yellow X. And that's going to be at the bottom of your profile curve. So if you go over here, you can see it as well. Okay, so that little marker is an indicator of the position along the path. And that's a 0 to 100% value, shown here in the path parameters. As I adjust this value, you should see the little yellow cross move up and down. Okay, so when I move it all the way up, that's at 100% along the path. If I bring it back down, that's 0% along the path. What I want to do is position that at the top, 100% along the path, and get the other shape, which is the circle shape. So I'll click Get Shape, and then click on the circle, and now I've got something. We're going to need to play around with this and make it better, but we can get in close and look at it. Okay. So where are we going to go from here? Well, we've created the loft, and we can just right-click to exit out of Loft Creation. Next, we'll go to the Modify panel and take a look at some of those parameters, and you'll see the same parameters are here once again. And so I could also add more shapes from here as well. Grab my Rotate tool and just turn this around. Looks like it just wants to be turned around 180 degrees in Z, so why don't I put that in exactly? I can right-click on my Rotate tool and put in a value here. Good. So that's now been set. I can position it forward a little bit. And now we're ready to deal with, cleaning up the model here and getting it nice and pretty. Now, if you go into the Loft Sub-object modes, you'll see something that says Shape. And this is a very powerful tool. It allows me to move the shapes around relative to the path. I can rotate them if I have twisties in my loft. I can move them around to fix this problem that we're seeing here. But the thing about this is, if I go into shape mode and I start moving things around, it's not undoable. So this is an old bug in the program in which, this can bite you if you're not careful. So this is one of the very few weird things in Max that is not undoable. So I'm going to save my file before I jump off a cliff here. Save as, and press the plus sign once again, and we're up to chair 08. So if I need to, I can go back to that version. Okay, so I'm going to choose the Shape Sub-object mode. If you move your cursor over the model, you'll see it sort of lighting up with that little cross. And if you click, that'll actually select the shape. And sometimes it's hard to see depending upon the colors you've chosen. You might need to hit F4 to turn off edged faces. But now when we move this around, you can see we can fix that little discrepancy. Let's look at it in all the views. I'll press the Z key, and we'll get that set where it needs to be.